I started eating one meal a day over 8 years ago, and it has really changed my life in a lot of positive ways. So in this video, I'm going to give you the top 25 benefits that I found from eating one meal a day. So the first benefit of OMAD is, of course, the weight loss. That's why I started doing it. I had been practicing intermittent fasting. As my fasting window got longer and longer and longer, my life just kept getting better and better and better. And eventually I got to the point where I was just eating one meal a day, and I decided to just do that. And I ended up losing a total of 80 pounds, so it works. The second benefit is that it's been awesome for maintenance. This is always where I failed with weight loss. I mean, I could usually get the weight off doing some sort of crazy diet, but I always ended up gaining it back. But this go around, I've just continued to practice OMAD, and I've kept it off now for years and years. Number 3 is I've been able to eat large portions. Now this kind of ties back into why I gained weight in the first place. I like to eat big portions. Like I don't like to eat like a bird. And the thing is, if you eat big meals 3 times a day plus snacks, you're going to gain weight. But if you just have one big meal a day, you can actually lose weight and keep it off. Number 4 is that it takes up so much less space in my brain. Before, when I was trying to lose weight, or even when I was just struggling with my weight, I was always thinking about food, about which foods to eat, which foods not to eat, and how much to eat, and how much did I eat at that last meal. And when I went to one meal a day, it just took all that out of my head, and it's incredible how much of a difference that made. Number 5 is it's just really easy to stay aware of how much you're eating when you eat one meal a day. This is especially helpful in maintenance. Now, like when you're just trying to lose weight, it's helpful because if you're just having one meal, it's really obvious if you are eating too much food or not. But especially in maintenance, because that's a time when we all just kind of let our foot off the gas a little bit, because you're just trying to stay in a range. You're not trying to lose, and you're just trying not to gain. And so it's easy for bad habits to kind of creep back in. And so, if you're just eating the one meal a day, it's really obvious how much you're eating and if you're overeating. Number 6, you have fewer dishes. I mean, when you're eating one meal a day, you're just not dirtying up the kitchen. So I was in the middle of editing this video and I realized I forgot number 7, which is it gives you a lot more time. It's crazy how much time I spent thinking about food, planning food, and cooking food before I started eating just one meal a day. Number 8 is that it makes you mentally tougher. I used to be the type of person who, if my breakfast was just slightly delayed, I would kind of feel grumpy and kind of, put out because, I didn't get my meal at the time that I thought I should get that meal. But to be able to learn how to just eat one meal a day, it just makes you tougher. It's like, sometimes you're going to feel hungry and you're like, no, I'm not going to eat right now. And by telling yourself no, it just makes things easier in your life. Like when you're tougher, life gets a little bit easier. Number 9 is that you get more energy. I mean, I take a cheat day once a week, and I have done that this entire time. So on my cheat day, I don't fast. I don't practice one meal a day. So every week I do have that comparison, like how do I feel on Sundays versus how do I feel through the rest of the week? And I can tell you, I have more energy and I just feel better overall on those days where I'm practicing one meal a day. Number 10 is you can save a lot of money by eating one meal a day. First of all, just by eating one meal a day, you're going to be eating the right amount of calories. And when you're eating the right amount of calories, you're going to be eating less than when you were overweight. And so you're going to save money that way. And because it's just one meal, you can end up just buying fewer ingredients overall. Number 11, your spiritual life will improve. Now, this may not happen for you, but it did happen for me. It's just different when you're eating one meal a day because there are going to be a lot of things that happen, in the morning and the afternoon, or maybe you're stressed or bored or, whatever. And you might have turned to food, or at least that's what I used to do. And once I started practicing one meal a day, I couldn't do that anymore. And so I realized so many times when I should have been praying or I should have been, like dealing with a problem, I had just been in the habit of eating instead. And if you define an idol as anything that comes between you and God, food had really become my idol. And so when I started practicing OMAD, that really became obvious to me, and it really changed my life learning that. Number 12, people are going to think you're pretty cool because you practice OMAD. I am constantly surprised at how impressed some people get. Not everybody, but some people get really impressed when you tell them, yeah, you just eat 1 meal a day. Like, to them, it's like a superpower. So it's kind of a cool party trick. Number 13 is that it pretty much eliminates emotional eating. Now, technically, even if you practice OMAD, that does mean if you're feeling super emotional, when you sit down to your OMAD, you're probably going to do some emotional eating. But otherwise, as long as you're just consistently practicing it, you're going to just have to have so much time there where you're going to have to deal with your emotions in ways other than eating that it just basically does away with it. I mean, again, that one point during the day where you do eat, you may do some emotional eating, but in my experience, because you learn all these different techniques, because you have to, you get in the habit of dealing with it in different ways, journaling or talking it out or just taking action on the thing, that you end up, once you get to the meal, you've kind of worked through it, or you're on your way to working through it. And it really helps. Number 14 is it creates time for exercise. So I was the type of person who I could always figure out a reason why, I didn't have time to exercise. But by not eating for such a stretch of the day, it does create time in your schedule. It creates a lot of time. In fact, that's one of the big challenges of practicing OMAD, is that you suddenly have a lot of time on your hands that you probably were otherwise filling with, eating and food and thinking about food. And so when you're feeling hungry and you're not going to eat right now, one of the things you can do that's actually really helpful is to go out and get some exercise, because it actually takes you away from the kitchen and, for most of us, puts us in a better mood. Number 15 is it gives you discipline. Discipline can be built in a lot of different ways. Just basically doing something every single day, whether it's writing or whether it's, eating 1 meal a day, or, maybe it's going for a long jog. There's a lot of different ways you can become disciplined. But I have found OMAD specifically gave me a level of discipline that I just didn't get until I started practicing this way of eating. I'm not sure why it worked like that, but it just did. I am able to just get myself to do more things consistently because I eat 1 meal a day. Number 16 is that it puts you on a more even keel, emotionally speaking. Now, this is at least what happened for me. Like, when I was just eating all the time, now granted, I was obese, so that probably played at least a little bit of a role, but I've just found that, by practicing OMAD, my emotions are just a lot more even than they used to be. That's not to say that I don't get into bad moods or that I don't even get into funks from time to time. But I've found just overall, I'm a more patient person. My anger doesn't flash as quickly as it used to, and just in general, I just feel a bit calmer throughout the day. Number 17 is it makes food taste so much better. So when I was obese, I was kind of picky. Like, there were certain meals I was like, I don't want to have that. Like, I don't want to have beans and rice. That doesn't taste like anything. I don't know why this is. It could just be something to do with our taste buds. There's something going on, because when you sit down to like 1 meal a day, everything tastes amazing. Whereas, if I'm eating like throughout the day, it's like, yeah, even those meals that normally I would feel like, oh, this is a great meal, I am pickier about. Number 18, you're going to spend less time prepping and cooking. So, back when I was eating throughout the day, I was just spending a lot of time, prepping the thing and then cooking the thing and all that. And when I went to eating 1 meal a day, it's just once a day, I go into the kitchen and make the food, and then that's all I have to do. Number 19 is your body gets a break, digestively speaking. Now, I don't know scientifically if this is a benefit or not, but I can tell you it is nice. Like, just having that 1 meal, like, I used to have a lot of like indigestion and stuff, heartburn. I remember like there was one point when I was obese, if I would eat greasy food, like greasy fried food, I would feel like nauseous afterwards. But these days I just don't have that same kind of experience. And I think a lot of that has to do with just, it's just one time a day that my body is having to digest things. Number 20 is you'll be more creative. So one of the big benefits of OMAD is that it gives you all this time. And like I mentioned, it's actually one of the challenges too, because you're gonna have to fill that time with something other than eating. And you can only exercise so much. So you have to come up with other ways to keep yourself entertained. And one thing I've found is that once I started practicing OMAD, I started being a lot more creative. Like I started this YouTube channel for one thing, and then my husband and I also started another YouTube channel. And then I also started writing books and I started doing art. And all these were things that I felt like I didn't have time for when I was obese. Number 21 is you waste less food. Part of the thing is you do become less picky. Like I said, the meals are going to taste way better than what you're used to. And as a part of that, because you're less picky, you don't like to see food go to waste. It's like, that's some delicious black beans right there. We're not going to throw that out. Number 22 is it simplifies your entire life. Because I simplified my eating life so much, it's like started to ripple out. Like I don't own as many clothes as I used to. Like just, I have like a few shirts and a few pair of pants, and I like the simplicity of it. And I just like simplicity in life in general. I watch far less TV than I used to. I also don't have social media. My life has just become quieter. And I think it's a direct result of that simplification of just my eating life. Number 23 is it makes you more flexible. Back when I used to eat all the time, I was pretty inflexible. It's like, no, I've got to eat. Like if I went to town, I need to figure out like, I've got to eat right now because I haven't eaten. But when you only eat once a day, it's like, you're just more flexible. It's like, if you're with people, they aren't eating, like it's no big deal. Cause it's like, I don't eat right now either. So it's fine. Or, if they want to eat at a certain time, it's like, yeah, whenever. And again, it's this weird kind of ripple effect, because once you kind of become more flexible with your eating, then you can also just become more flexible as a person, or at least that's what happened to me. Number 24, you appreciate food more. So one thing that happened for me was that, with OMAD, sometimes I would legitimately be hungry during the day. At my previous OMAD, I just didn't eat enough for whatever reason. And so because I was practicing it consistently, there were certain days where I really did feel hungry. And by voluntarily feeling actually hungry, I used to kind of think that I was hungry. There were times in my life where I was obese and I was like, man, I'm so hungry. And looking back, it's like, I was really not that hungry. I just wanted to eat because it was like the urge to eat, because I always eat it at this time. I've done extended fasting too at this point, like 5-day fast with, only water. And I've learned, the real hunger that you can feel. And so by learning that, like learning what true hunger feels like, I was doing it voluntarily, and to understand that there are people in the world who that's their reality. It's not their choice. They're just in this situation where, maybe their country is in a famine right now and they don't have enough food. Like learning that there is a thing that is true hunger. And that's a way different experience than, oh, I just want a snack. And then it just made me so much more appreciative of food, that we have access to food. And it really changed my whole perspective on food. I know a lot of foods get really demonized in media and in the diet and weight loss world. Right now, sugar is the whipping boy, or white rice, all these different things, carbs. But the fact is, people, they need food. And to call any food junk food, I think is an insult to those people who have no access to food. Number 25, you learn how to wait. So when I started practicing OMAD, it put this practice in me every day of really waiting for my food. Intermittent fasting does that to a certain extent, but there's something about OMAD because it's, 24 hours basically of waiting for food. And that helped me to learn how to just wait in general, specifically for weight loss, because you do have to wait on the weight loss to happen. I mean, you're doing things, but the scale always moves down slower than you want it to. And I just learned that's okay. I can wait for my food. I can wait for the weight loss. That ability to wait really does help you become a more patient person. And that's really important, because especially being patient with yourself, because the fact is, if you're trying to lose weight, you're going to mess up on the weight loss journey. You're going to have days where you overeat. Same in maintenance. Even though, it's like you know how much you should eat, sometimes you eat more than that. And even with emotional eating, it's like, don't emotionally eat, but sometimes you're going to do it. And learning how to be patient with yourself, to wait, to just know, you're still trying to get good at this, and that's okay. That has been super helpful in maintenance. So there you have it, 25 of the biggest benefits that I have found with practicing OMAD. Again, It's just awesome. I love it. And so if this is something that appeals to you, I would encourage you to try it. You might just find it will change your life. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. In 2015, I weighed in at 222 pounds, which meant I was obese. I was determined to figure out a way to lose the weight permanently while still eating all the foods that I loved. I found success when I committed to a very simple plan. I practiced intermittent fasting 6 days a week, took a cheat day on Sunday, and walked 6 miles every day. I determined that I would not count calories. I would not restrict any foods or carbs, and I would instead focus on eating until I was full. I lost a total of 80 pounds with this plan, and it's helped me maintain in a healthy weight range for over 6 years. I've taken the lessons I've learned on my weight loss journey and written the laid-back guide to intermittent fasting, overcoming weight loss obstacles, and the laid-back guide to weight loss maintenance. Grab your copies on Amazon and get started losing weight today.